Hello.
We can hear you fine.
Serious internet problems. So we resolved that. Mariam would send me a video, then I installed it a bit. So I hope that but what? So I would say
Kuda, you are sometimes dropping. Is it possible that you can change the mic? It is, you're very far away. We can hear you talking, but it's very difficult to hear. I think it's the mic. It was fine before. Hello? Hello, Kuda Kawashi? Mm-hmm. It's not possible to hear you. Maybe it's better to type then. Otherwise, I can, in the meantime, I can ask Golden or Mariam to update because you were both there, I think.
Okay, so we attempted to do the installation with Kuda a few days ago, but he was having serious internet issues, and just like what has happened now was what was happening during our meeting. So we then resorted to, I'll send him a video that will guide him, and then I'll also send him the step-by-step guide to help him do the installation.
All right. Golden, are you, thank you, Mariam. Golden, can you hear us? Can you speak? Golden? I saw Golden coming in, and then I don't know, he has dropped as well. Because that's a good idea, Mariam. But also the connection of Golden is usually fine. So perhaps you can also involve him to see if that works as well. That's another possibility. Okay, then we look forward to hopefully getting a positive update next week. And Kuda Kwashi says we had internet challenges. We're trying my best completing the process. Special thanks to Mariam, Odowola, and everyone for your patience. And also, please, Kuda, if you can hear, involve Golden in any communication if that is if that could help. Then let me ask if there are any updates by anybody else at this moment. Otherwise, today it's very good to see Professor Francesca back. And we are going to look today at the articles for the special issue and how to prepare them. So Aliyah, if you can start the PowerPoint. So this question that we are looking at today is how to prepare the article or the articles. Some of you have more than one article. And then also how the articles may relate to the conference of the Fair Convergence. Yeah, go to the next slide, Aliyah. So the first part in the article, you have to introduce the topic of that article. What is it about? And that needs to be set within a literature review. It does not need to be long. It can be something like half a page, 3/4 of a page, but it needs to be more than just the introduction of the topic. It needs to refer to the literature that is available on that topic. And then from the literature review, you need to introduce the research gap that emerges, and then from which you can describe the objective of your article. And the objective of your article is that what you want to clarify that would help to solve the research gap, or to at least contribute to a better understanding in the research gap. And then from the objective, so the objective is the aim of what you want to achieve through your clarification in the article. From that, then you find it very logical to include the research question, the main research question, with sub-questions. That depends a bit on the structure of your research. And that then will need to be accompanied by an explication of the relevance of the research question. And the relevance is both relating to the scientific relevance, the academic relevance, and also the societal relevance. Why should we want to know this from a societal perspective? And that then also leads to the considerations from an ethical perspective. Were there ethical considerations to make, and how did you deal with them? So that is quite a bit for the introduction. So it means that you need to use the space that you have in the introduction very effectively. I think I'll go through the introduction, and then we can go through it again with contributions from Dr. Feng Hong and Francesca and Sakinat and Dr. Reginald and anyone else. Then if we go to the next page, so after the introduction and the research question, you then need to make explicit what your theoretical embedding is. And that may differ it differs from one discipline to the next. In some disciplines, the theoretical embedding is very important. In other disciplines, it may not be so lengthy. Hello? Is it
missing source document?
Put on mute.
I think it's good to keep all the documents. Yeah, because yeah.
People? Yeah. Then the theoretical embedding relates to the theory that provides a lens in your research, but also the philosophical approach in which it fits. So does it come from a positivistic approach in which you look at it from a kind of a distance, or are you looking at it from a social embedding where you're really trying to understand from within the context the from within the context, what is happening within that particular situation. So then you really take a perspective from within. And that relates to the research design of the study. And the research design of the study is related to the question as to what you want to discover. So the research design can be explorative, it can be to test a theory, it can be to apply and test findings from another research within another context. So the research design gives a clarification to the reader as to what you were actually trying to establish through the research that you carried out. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit more. It is not always very easy. In some of the studies that we have here, it could be explorative. It could also be a feasibility study to see if it is possible. It could be a design study when you really make something and see the possibilities of constructing this, what you have set out to make. If we go to the next slide. So now we have arrived at the third part of the article. So the first part is probably half a page, 3/4 of a page. Then the second part on the theoretical approach and the philosophical approach is maybe again something like half a page. It depends a little bit on from article to article. And then the next part is the methodology. And in the methodology, you should very clearly explain where did you carry out your research, what data is the basis of your research that is presented in the article, what is the methodology of collecting this data, and how did you analyze this data. So this can be, the data can be from introducing a particular technology, like for instance, a fair data point within a context, then that can be called a design study, or it could be a literature review, like for instance in the articles on fair equivalency. So there can be many ways in which the data is collected, and in this part, the third section, it is important that you set out in what way you collected this data and how you analyze them. So then we go to the next slide. Now this is the fourth part, and this is the most substantive part. So usually here you would expect maybe something like 3 pages, and here you have to organize these findings very well. So this can be done in relation to 4 sets. First of all, which are the findings of your research? Secondly, what is your interpretation of the findings? And then what was expected and what was unexpected in these findings? And what is new about your findings? So this is something that you discuss, and in the section on which are the findings of your research, it's very important that you identify them section by section, and that those sections are very well distinguished, that it's clear what each section is presenting in terms of the findings. Then if we go to the next slide. Then we get to the fifth section, which is the conclusions. And in the conclusions, first of all, you need to go back to the research question that you set out in the introduction. And now with the data that you have collected, with the research that you have conducted, the analysis that you have done, the findings that you have presented, now you need to give the answer to your research question. So that is the main aim of the conclusion. And then you should weigh these conclusions in terms of their relevance, and also what are the implications of these conclusions, what is the meaning of them, and what should we take from them. Then going to the next. Then now that we have presented the conclusions, we need to say something about the strength of those conclusions. So the strength of these conclusions has a lot to do with how sure we are of the findings that we have, and whether these findings are very much determined by a particular context in which we conducted this research, for instance. Then we might say that we don't know anything really about the generalizability, but we know something about the design, the adoption of a particular design in a particular context. So these are the questions around the reliability, the generalizability, and the validity of the conclusions. And then if we go to the next, then here we have the last part of the article. And here now you need to really, having gone through the exercise of weighing the work that you have done, you now need to say something about your contribution through this research to the wider field of academia. What are lessons learned? Which things could be done different in another research? And really, what are the priorities that you see for further research? So this is really the way in which the articles should be set out. We can also say something about the way you set up the sources and the references. Maybe Feng Hong can also say something about that. But let me first ask maybe Feng Hong how she sees this outline. We had not prepared it. How you see this in terms of the style of the special issue, and if you have anything to contribute. And then we will go to Dr. Sakinat. And then I still have some other things to also talk about, and that is how you do this with multiple authors and how this relates to the conference. But let me first ask Dr. Feng Hong to contribute at this time. Please, Feng Hong.
Hi, Professor. Yes, I read through all of the submissions. The first batch of the submissions. I'm sorry, I didn't get time to have another round look for the update for the new submissions. For me, I just feel like some of them are not really very relevant to the topic of the special issue. So I don't know, but anyway, so Professor Midam, you are the chief, guest editor, so it is totally up to you. I mean, you decide which topic we can include, which we cannot. But for me, I mean, I cannot remember very clearly, but I comment for all of the articles. I wrote my comments to each article. So I think the authors can find my comments from the text.
Yes, definitely. Your comments and the comments of the reviewers, which include my own comments and also those of Dr. Sakinat, they have been distributed, and I assume that everybody has received them. Let me also ask this in the chat, whether everybody has received the comments of the reviewers. We took it, Feng Hong, that we at this point really wanted to encourage the authors to elaborate. And so when we were not clear of how the topic relates exactly to the special issue, then we have asked for clarification. But we first want to understand better what the thinking is of the authors. So this is something that really should get on the way now. And in the next round, we'll ask more questions. For now, with the presentation today, I wanted to really discuss whether the way in which the articles should be set up, whether that is clear. And in terms of the structure, what I just presented, are you happy with that, the way I presented it? Feng Hong.
Yes, yes, it is very clear. I think it is. I mean, it can be like a textbook presentation. So, when you are giving the talk, I'm some like, I'm forwarding all of the slides to my students. We have a group of online chat group. So I copy your slide. Is that okay? And forward that to my students.
Yeah. That's very fine. I'll just make sure that I remove any typos. I see here a typo, but yes, I'm very happy if they are being used. That is what the purpose is completely. So that is very fine. So the structure is good from your perspective, is what I hear. That is good to hear. Then perhaps I can ask Dr. Sakinat to also add from her perspective. And I recognize that there might be differences between, well, different disciplines, also maybe continental cultural differences in terms of how we do articles. So I don't claim actually to have the truth on this, but I just wanted to give some clarity as to what is expected. So maybe we can go back, my dear Alia, to the first slide, and then I'll ask Sakinat to also go through this again, and then with a perspective from her side. Sakinat, please.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Professor Miriam. First of all, yes, Professor Fehon, Professor Francisca, how are you today, ma? Actually, I made two preparations for today. One for the sharing of the, I prepared a slide, but what I have on the slide is very, 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 very similar to everything that Prof has talked to us about. And then the second one that I prepared was that when we are finished writing all the contents, then what do the journal expect us to do? So I kind of copy out the author's instructions from the author's instruction from the, but I also have the link here, the link to the, okay, I've sent the link. That's the link to author's instruction on what we are expected to do. And writing research, basically.
If you would like to present your slides, that is completely fine. If you prepared them, I wasn't sure, so I just used my own. But
yes, that's just what I just said. That is very, very similar, at least maybe 90% of what I have on my slide, or maybe in a different English. But wow, okay, okay. Yes. So just what I want to say is that writing research, basically they have the same structure: introduction, the methodology and the data, then the results and the discussion. So Adia, is it this first slide? Okay. Can you move to the next slide? So, and okay, so why are we writing research, or why are we conducting research? To provide answers to some questions about behavior of using some scientific method. And we know that our special issue is based on fear. So just like from some of the comments that Dr. Ofehong made on the abstracts that we reviewed, that we should stay very, very close to the theme, to the aim. So next slide, please. Aliyah, okay. So readers' priority, what does readers want to see in our write-up or our article? The readers want to read authoritative quality articles, or then article that they can easily access online, and rapid delivery of information, or convenient in a convenient format that is easy to follow. Next slide. So most of these things we have it in then. Well, the first thing, or the four things that should be always be on our mind when we are writing our research: one, the aim. We should stay very, very close to the aim that we proclaim in the article, and also stay close to the aim or scope of the issue, the journal. Yeah, most of the journals, they usually have their scope. Then who are we writing our article for? Are we writing to an advanced audience, or are we writing to educate the audience? So it depends on your audience, who you are writing your article for. It will dictate the tone of your work and the level, maybe to be an advanced level or a basic level. Then we create awareness that you are aware that there are existing research. So we call that related work, or literature review. That so you begin to draw your ideas, so that from the past to the present, then maybe you proclaim some things that you would like to see in the future. Then you articulate your plan, what you hope to you plan out your work, the logical structure. And then majorly this logical structure, they are kind of the same for all research. It's just that the content or context just differ a bit. Next slide. So you get to know the journal you want to submit to. So this is the link to the journal, that what is the goal, and how does the journal, how do they expect you to write your work? I'm sure that we can do this maybe after, at the end of the day, when you are through with writing your work. And I went through the journal, the data journal, for the author's instruction. So, and most of the things that they expect us to do, they are not far-fetched. You know, their referencing style, their logical structure, and some other things that they expect us to do. So if we go to this link, I already sent it to the chat room. We can also see that. So we should always keep that handy, even when we finish writing our work. Next slide. So then, stick to the point, the strongest point. What is your aim? So you stick to it and stay focused. And you don't lose focus. Your aim should also align with the special issue. So that's why we say that the strongest paper usually have just one point to make. You can even have one aim and have maybe one or two objectives to achieve your aim. Next slide. Okay, so you create a logical framework. Prof said that before too, that a theoretical framework, you create your own. So, and this structure of your journal paper is just as important as the content itself, and it helps to guide the reader through a clear way. Because sometimes when we look at your framework, maybe if you put it in a diagram, we're able to follow how you go about your methodology and how you implement what you claim to want to do in the work. Next slide. So then clarity is key. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. Okay, I've already said this earlier that we should be aware of other literature. So, and we reference it. So, anywhere you take ideas from, you cite it in your work and you write out a full reference at the end of the manuscript. Next slide. So, you make your references current and relevant. So, though sometimes you can apply a method that has been applied from many years back, you can bring it to the future, but we always advise that we write current research and relevant to our work. Next slide. So we have to be original, because when we, after writing our work, we see pass it through plagiarism check to check if the work has been plagiarized, and we advise that we make our work to be the similarity level to be as low as possible. Though I don't know the level for this journal, but most journals usually want 11% or maybe 12%. Next slide. So now this is a complete view of how our paper should look like. We should have a title, just like Prof had said, though the other slides were explaining all this. Then authors, we say that authors are actually writers that contribute to your work. They have one way or another, they have contributed to the work. Then we write the abstract. We had already discussed how our abstract should look like. And we discovered that even the way our abstract look like is all should also follow the logical structure when we are writing our manuscripts. Then the introduction, method, result, and discussion, just like what Prof showed us earlier. The references is very, very important, because when you get an idea from somebody or from an article that you like so much, you use it, you cite it, and you reference it. Next slide. So then, okay, the title, what should be in the title? They should describe the paper's content clearly and precisely, including keywords, but we don't want any particular jargons. What we mean by jargons is that, sometimes somebody like myself that I'm in data science, so, and my article, I know it won't be read by only data scientists only. So I should not bring data science jargons into the title of the work and some other things. Next slide. So the abstract, we had already said that before, that for this, our article, we expect at least 250 words and not more than 500 words if we can. Yes, not more than 500. And we said the problem, which comprises of the introduction and the aim, method, the result, and the conclusion. And also our paper too will also follow this format. Next slide. So the introduction, we should clearly state the problem that we are investigating, what's the background and the reasons for conducting this research. Even in the introduction, you also put you summarize your experiment and tell us your aim and your objective. Next slide. So the theoretical framework, that one way to understand the purpose of the theoretical framework is to see it as leading your reader through graphs in the literature that your paper addresses. So in your framework, we can see where you are going and what gap you are trying to fill up here. So next slide. So we talk about method here that provides the reader enough detail so that they can understand and replicate your research. We call this reproducibility, such that readers can reproduce your experiments. If they see the data, you should cite your data so that we can actually access the data, and also make your data fair, and also make your model fair too, so that we can find your model and try to reproduce your experiments. And then we explain how you study the problem and some then you explain the new methodology in detail. What the methodology that you are going to bring now, you explain it into detail. But the bottom line is that we should be able to reproduce your method. We advise that very much in science, especially data science. The reproducibility of your method, of the model that you build, we encourage that so much. Next slide. So we also talk about our data and the method. Data is very, very important, and how you accrue or you obtain your data. You should be able to give us a brief explanation, or if you take a fair data already from a repository, you can make reference to the repository or where we can get data, and how the data was obtained, because the data correction process is also very, very important. So we said that this session that answers the question of how do you know what you know, or and these things can be broken into so many ways, that what kind of information or materials are you basing your findings on? How did you collect your data? Is it through interview? Is it primary data? Is it secondary data? Then how did you find information? Where did it come from? And some other things like that. Next slide, please. Then your results. So objectively present your findings and explain what you found. So, and just like Prof said, is it positivity approach now, or ego graphic? I've forgotten the big name now. Now that result is always based on what you find in your work, and you try to theorize it. So you don't assume that this is how it should be, and you begin to discuss in that line. No, you discuss based on your research finding. Give us your result, discuss it, and try to relate it to what is in the theory. So then the way you present your result also matters. You present it in a logical format, so that we follow through. The first result, the first experiment you discuss in your method should be the first result that you bring out in your result session, so that we can relate it together. Then also sometimes some results, especially if you carry out a quantitative research, and if you have so many results, you can use a statistical analysis to bring out the best model, or you can also use figure or diagram to explain your result. Especially if you have accuracy for about 10 models, you can draw a histogram, and from the histogram, we know that the tallest bar is the best, has the best results. So sometimes it's like that. Or if you use a table, maybe you can bold the best value, so that that when we are reading through, our eyes just go straight to the bold value. Next slide. So discussion and the conclusion. I am sure that Prof has done justice to this. I'm just running through the slide, because it's the same thing that I have here that she had already explained to us earlier, that you describe your results, what it means in the context of what has already been known about the subject. So that's what I said earlier, that when you discuss your results, your research finding, then you try to theorize it. We relate it to what is already in the literature. Does it conform with it? If not, of course, we say that we accept the negative results. So if your result does not conform with what we have in the literature already, then you discuss that also, and let us see why your result is different from the theory, and then maybe we can adopt the new method. Next slide. So referencing that, references is as important as even writing the context of your paper, that wherever you draw upon previously published work, you must acknowledge the source. So you cite and you write your references. Then different journals, they have different referencing styles. Some use APA style, some use IEEE, some use Vancouver. So just like the link that we are dropped, you can go to the link for the journal, so that you see how the journal for author's instruction on writing manuscript, on presenting your manuscript. So we can get the author style from there. Next slide. Yes, thank you. Okay, the overview of peer review process. Sometimes I just put all this there because I don't know if we will have time to discuss this later. Sometimes when you submit your manuscript to a journal, so what goes on after? So we see that when it's submitted and confirmation of receipt that they've received your manuscript, then the first place it lands is the editor's table. So when the editor go through it, if it conforms with the aim and scope of the journal, then they accept it for review. they have not accepted it for publication, but they accept for review. But if it doesn't conform, they can reject and ask you to make some major revisions or minor revisions. So from there, you see that the editor is the one that decides the reviewer. He assigns the reviewer, and they complete the review. So when they get back to the author, you are the author now, they can either accept your paper, reject it, or ask you to revise your paper, just like we did in the review of the abstract. We have a lot of people to revise their abstract. So then how the notification process, how it goes. So I just put this diagram there, though I wasn't the one that designed this diagram, but I found it and I see that it is very, very informative. So that's why I put it here, so that we know what goes on behind the scene. Next slide. So summarily, this is how a paper looks like, should look like. You have a title, the authors, and you write the abstract with the keywords, introduction. Some journals, they said that their keywords should be 4, some say 6, some say 10. So with this, our journal, with that link that I gave, every information is there. Introduction, acknowledgement, references, and appendices, if you have. Next slide. Next slide. Wow, some references. Thank you for your time. Professor Miriam, thank you so much, ma.
No, it is for me to thank you. That was most brilliant, very, very clear. I think that was very advantageous to everybody. I want to use the remaining time that we have, Sakinat, to also go through the 5 seminars of the conference, because it's coming very quickly, and I think it will be useful for the leads if we discuss that and see that in relation to the work in the special issue. So seeing the time, I would propose that now today we go on with the 5 seminars and the preparations of these in the conference, and then that we take this theme back again next week with some further detail also on things of the referencing, what it means to do double peer review. There are still more details that we haven't touched on today, which we can then do next week. And then you could also do the other presentation that you have, Dr. Sakinat, because this is very, very helpful, I think. Let me see in the chat also, please let me know if this proposal is good and if this is indeed helpful. I see from Kudakwashi, very, very helpful. In the meantime, I'll look at the chat. Can I take then the other PowerPoint back, Alia, just that we can discuss the work that the leads have done this week? They've worked very hard on the preparation of the seminars for the conference. You can go to the following slides. And Dr. Hassan, it's so good to see you here, and Dr. Reginald as well. So we also really look forward to your help in these discussions and to discuss this further. So we also look forward to that. Maybe first go to that slide 9. This is just to indicate that the articles usually have more than one author. So the starting work of all of this is to work with the co-authors that can contribute something to the research that you are presenting in the article. Discuss a timeline, make a clear distinction of who does what, discuss regularly how you may be moving forward on the article, and monitor the progress and agree on the sprints to tie it in with the deadlines. And if we go then to slide 10, then you see here that our first step is the discussion of drafts of the articles at the Fair Convergence Conference. So that is what we will go to now. That is really what you should be working towards, to present drafts of the article articles at the seminars for discussion there with your colleagues. Then we go to the next slide, 11. So the themes of the convergence workshops. We first go to the first one, slide 12. So this is on fair equivalency, which is being prepared by Putu. But Mariam, you are also in this group. Perhaps a brief feedback on how this is going. Mariam?
The PowerPoint presentation is done. Putu completed the PowerPoint presentation, and also the video as well should be ready.
Yeah, and maybe so the topic that is important, because what you are presenting in fair equivalency is the structured way of looking at the policy and regulatory framework in a particular situation, and how this relates to the fair framework. So for instance, for Kudakwashi, this is also very relevant. And in fact, it would be nice if he could also make some contribution there. And this could also be something that could be, I mean, this can be undertaken in all of our countries, because at the end of the day, whether it is Tunisia or Nigeria or Ethiopia, we all need to make sure that what we are doing is matching between FAIR and the policy and regulatory framework. So all the articles that relate to how FAIR is investigated to see how it is compliant with the regulatory framework, that would fit in this workshop. And you should approach Putu, but he's traveling now to Indonesia, but otherwise Mariam, and indicate your interest to participate in this workshop. Right, Mariam?
Most definitely.
And I see that Kudakwashi will contribute. So Mariam, if you can share the work that you have done on this already, so that then he can use that. And then of course he applies it to Zimbabwe. So he just uses the framework, but then applies it in another context, which is just perfect.
Yeah, I shared it with him already, but I don't know if he received it.
But that you can do bilaterally. And he says he got them. So that's good, 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 nice. Good, this is nice. Then going to the next one. Thanks, Mariam. This one I give to Dr. Sakinat, I think, on the curriculum development. So this is the data stewardship training, really, that we are working on. And Dr. Francesca, she's the curriculum lead, together with working with Alia on this in the other project that we have. Dr. Sakinat, back to you.
Yes, ma. Thank you, ma. I would still like Prof and Aliyah to still just complement the list that I'm going to talk about. That this curriculum development is going to be steered around the data stewardship, fair data stewardship. So, what kind of skill set should a data steward obtain? What kind of skills should they have to be good at what they are going to be doing? Then we it's going to be centered around these less privileged people, like from the Sudan, Somali, and South Sudan also. And we have actually started with the curriculum development, and it's centered around the computer science and making data fair in terms of semantics and model building. I don't know, Aliyah, would you like to say something more?
Well, actually, yeah, we are. I think I would like to tell that the video was sent to the symposium. So yesterday, and I think that's it from my side. Yeah.
Yes, and I've already sent mail to 4 of our panelists, Dr. Fairhong, and she acknowledged receipt of the mail, and Eric also, Kathy, the people that you recommended, Professor Miriam, I already sent mail to them, and I copied you and Professor Francisca, and I didn't put the time zone in the mail. So maybe when I'm sending the reminder, because our workshop is coming up on the 4th of December, I'll put the time zone in the mail. But our session is going to be, we are going to be discussing majorly on data stewardship. What kind of skill set should they have? And then maybe we extend to analytics stewards too. Analytics steward in terms of what kind of algorithms or what kind of models can you do with a data that is fair. So we hope to discuss that too at the workshop. Thank you.
So, Dr. Sakinat, here you have a case study with the work that Francesca and Alia are working on in South Sudan, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Somalia. But the curriculum development issue of data stewardship really goes beyond that particular case. So it will be very good if they present and also invite their colleagues from these countries to this seminar, and they'll become able to contribute really nicely. But also, I mean, this is relevant, I'm sure, in Nigeria, in Tunisia, in China. That is why I thought it would be good to invite Feng Hong, because computer science is not really has not really very much incorporated the semantic data logic, or at least in as far as I am aware, not that much. So this really is looking at the question as FAIR will become more relevant in the future to data science. What skills then should we start integrating in our curricula at academic level, but maybe also at other levels? So it's really opening up that question. And we have already kind of a big data steward group in Europe, but I think this question is equally important for anywhere. So why not discuss it from our experience in VODAN? Is that helpful, Dr. Sakinat?
Yes, ma, it's very helpful. You know, I was thinking in that line too, that we are going to be talking about the skill set required for data stewards, and we from the literature, what data stewards do is it even goes beyond gathering data, the data provenance and so many other things. Then we are going to extend it to data steward and analytics stewards too.
Yeah.
We talk about analytics stewards, and this big data, we are including it right now.
Yeah, yeah. And then you need to think how it will be very good to look again at the special issue and see which are the articles that are looking at data stewardship or doing something that is relevant to data stewardship and curriculum development in our VODAN project, and then invite them specifically and make sure that the seminar contributes to the development of those articles. That would be fantastic. So then let's go to the next one, because I see that Hetjan is saying web sciences are about semantic data, Tim Berners-Lee, but it seems that the issue of the day is overloading the agenda of computer science. Currently, it seems to be AI. Yeah, I think that's a very important comment. And Hetjan, you might be very willing to contribute to this seminar, in fact. So then maybe you can liaise with Dr. Sakinat from Nigeria and with Dr. Francesca and Alia. So then, and thanks for that comment. Then going to the third one, which is beyond COVID-19. So this one is with Reginald, and it really looks at what is the additional understanding that we can have on COVID-19 once we have applied fair data? And what does this mean for reflecting on the relevance of fair data if you would apply it more broadly to DHIS, etc., right, Reginald?
Right, yes.
Would you explain to us how you see it?
Yeah, well, the observational patient data has helped us to understand how to prepare ourselves in the moment of any pandemic. For example, we're able to understand that it's very good to test, isolate, treat, and then improve healthcare within their particular country. And so if we have this data to help us understand how to move forward, then we should be able to incorporate this as part of our study so that we are able to advise policymakers to incorporate this as part of the moving forward. So this link between observational patient data and understanding of COVID infection on the continent is very, very important. So it will also help us to drive actually VODAN forward, that perhaps in the next phase, we are able to focus on this so that we work through with SDG number 3, health and well-being, and then think of other possibilities. So I'm very happy also to introduce a team that is coming forward, like Dr. Miriam, Dr. Ibrahim, and Yaz. His name is too long. The name is too long, so I can only say Yaz. Dr. Patrick Chamanya, Dr. Wandimu, if you could also suggest someone, Feng Hong, Professor Miriam, myself, to be able to articulate this discussion. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, and Bondimu has a lot to contribute because he is really has been working on the platform of COVID-19 data. So it would be very interesting to discuss with Bondimu how this is now potentially giving more clarity in what this could contribute in the future to insights. But it's very important to emphasize that, as you all know, we are building this as we are doing these projects. We are not going to have all these insights tomorrow. But we get a bigger understanding of the contribution that these fair-made observational patient data would make to following a epidemic like COVID-19. Wondimo, are you able to work on this with together with Dr. Reginald? Wondimo.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Prof. Miriam, and I would like also to appreciate Dr. Reginald for taking the responsibility. As you know, we have a limited connection problem, so from our side, we couldn't make it, but already this is drafted. You know, the good thing from the DHIS2 is, you know, it is interoperable and it's possible to link with fair data. In our context, if you see, we have we have been using COVID data, also using DHIS2 tracker to collect the data from respective health facility as well from the regional health bureau. So we do have a web-based DHIS2 tracker for COVID data as well. It's possible to link, you know, fair data point with COVID with DHIS2, since as I've said, both are interoperable. So what we suggest is just first is assessing, you know, the requirement from the DHIS2 and from the fair data point, and then to develop, you know, interface to link both platforms. So this is what we have suggested. So it needs some time, and then we assess the DHIS2 platform, And then we identify those all data element in DHIS2 as well from the FAIR data point. And then it's possible to develop an interface. And then it's possible to extract data from DHIS2 FAIR data point. So that's what we have suggested. But the gap here is, as you see, DHIS2 is used for aggregate indicator-based data. But in the case of FAIR data, what we have suggested or what we are doing right now is individual-based data. So I think we need also to design some platform for the aggregated, that means indicator level data. If so, I think it's possible to manage that one. And we can go beyond, even we can apply other for cancer. Already we have experience, you have experience for cancer, and also we can expand in the long run for other health service. I think this FAIR data point is very appropriate, especially in a country like in Africa, where we don't have, medical record system, which is one of the major challenge at grassroots level to generate, accurate data. Most of the data is entered in manually. So when you enter manually, there is highly vulnerable for data entry problems. So if we introduce this FAIR data point at grassroots level, maybe in the long run, we will think about also to link with medical health, electronic medical health record. So this is what I've seen. Just we tried, by the way, our best. Maybe we will continue more in the long. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Wondimu, this is exactly the point of this seminar. You have said it so well, and I can see that Abdullahi from Ibu is also getting excited. Do you want to add something at this point, Abdullahi?
Okay, so Miriam, thank you. Wondimu, I think that's quite an interesting discourse, and I would say, speaking from someone who has attempted to collate COVID-19 data, especially in the earliest phases of the pandemic in Nigeria, it's very relevant, especially for the future. From my experiences, there are, of course, data quality issues that came up, and I felt it will be an important thing to really reflect on, so that when we're faced with similar challenges in the future, we will have no cause to worry. Yes, and then the use of DHIS, or integration of the FAIR platform to the DHIS, is really a forward-thinking discourse. We will, of course, I haven't worked with the HIV agency and closely with the Ministry of Health. I know the DHIS is a common platform used for reporting, and like you rightly said, at aggregated levels. And here we are for the FDP, it is at individual level. So it's something to really have to consolidate and even begin to make some generic protocols that will serve either pandemics or the general health issues that we are faced with. Yeah, so it's really exciting, and I'm happy to share a few of my experience. And yeah, thank you.
This is very excellent discussion, and I think that this is a very good seminar also to have. I'm so glad that we have it at the conference, but I would also like to ask Wondimu and Abdullahi if you can please attend the weekly seminars on Monday with Sidar and John, which is being coordinated by Aliyah. But this is what we are discussing there is really exactly this what we are discussing now here, and then how this translates into the technological architecture that we would like to build in the next phase of the project. But actually we have been, I don't know if you were there yesterday, but we were really discussing sort of the very basics that you need to first decide before you go further on in the architecture. So I think it's really good if you can contribute to that, and of course also Kudakwashi and anybody else. But yeah, if you are not in that group, we should make sure that you are also in that group if you can spare the time.
Sure, we'll try to.
Yes, Abdullahi, thank you. Thank you. And Wondimu, I hope also that is possible. Then let me take to the next seminar, seeing that the time is so far overdue. Then Mariam, you are looking at this really in the context of fair health management from the perspective of including digital interoperability across different digital healthcare providers. So how are you faring, Mariam, on this seminar?
Okay, so well, following the successful deployment of the fair data points and the inclusion of the data and running the queries. So for this session, the question is mainly around how the tools can be used to integrate the fragmented digital health solutions. And so, well, the panel for this discussion was considering the possibility of extending the WHO ECRF best implementation architecture in order to include patient data as well for different purposes based on the health data requirements of the localized storage and curation under the locally relevant regulatory frameworks. And so, and also maybe include some bit of the study on the CEDAR localization. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Good. That's excellent. Very good, Mariam. And then the last one, that one is the one on fair data and vulnerable communities. And for that, I'm going to give the floor to Makan.
Thank you, Miriam. It's going to be a panel gathering speakers who have made research on how COVID-19 impacted vulnerable communities in Tunisia, in Libya, in Niger, in Zimbabwe, in Kenya also. We are also going to talk about Ethiopia, and there are going also to be inputs like the one of Dr. Mariam on how did researcher people that are part of VODAN did to get data on how COVID-19 impacted vulnerable communities. So yeah, this is what we are going to do. We have now gathered 10 different speakers.
That is also very amazing. That should be a very exciting workshop as well, very relevant also and topical. So I think that I can congratulate all of these teams and all of us for, I think these are very, very nice seminars. I have gone over the time. At least we had plenty to discuss, and we have lots on the agenda for next week again, and then these things are coming up very rapidly. So anybody who has ideas, suggestions that can help these coordinators, now that this has become very clear, please contact them so that you can help them. Let me ask if there's anyone who would like to contribute still at this time. And otherwise, let me give the floor to you, Francesca. We've missed you, so at least we can hear your voice. Francesca, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here, Professor. Thank you very much. Good to be back, to be with you all again. And thank you, Professor Miriam, for the leadership, and to everyone else for keeping things moving. It's just, I was reflecting on our preparation and for the workshop, the convergence workshop, and it seems like we have just naturally dissolved or evolved into several different pathways to provide answers to different questions and provide different insights from, especially from Africa, along different lines of reasoning, which is really exciting. So I am sure we're going to make excellent contributions at the Convergence Workshop. And as VODAN Africa, as we always are, our outings are usually spectacular. So I'm so excited and can't wait to actually have all of this showcased to the world. So I would like to thank everyone again, and thank you for many of you reached out to me privately. I am getting better. I hope to be back on my feet very, very soon, and we continue in the same pace. Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, well, we are so happy to have you back. And we will also now get into the situation where we can really get the project also properly on the rails. So we will also be starting to make really the preparations for all of that and come up with the planning for that. I think for now we are still doing that a little bit behind the scene, Professor Francesca, myself, and the coordinators, but we will be very soon coming back in these VODAN webinars to really see what that exactly means. For now, may I just ask everybody to continue this excellent work, really work please on the articles for the presentations at the convergence seminars, and give your assistance to the coordinators where you can. It is very, very much appreciated. And thank you for so many excellent contributions. It was really exciting webinar today, and I feel that we are getting ready for the next stage. So let me say goodbye for now. Let me hand over to Aliyah to close, and thank you again for all the excellent participation, and to see you again next week. Aliyah, for you to close. And Dr. Sakinat will do the seminar again next week together in the same way as we did today. That was just brilliant. Aliyah.
Thank you very much, Professor Miriam. Thank you everyone else for participating in this webinar and for your contribution. I would like to close this webinar and see you next week at the same time. If you have any questions, please reach me regarding the conference or any article. So we are here to help you. Thank you very much, and see you next week. Bye.
See you next week.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.